Good morning, everyone. It's Michael Dominichetti here, and it is November the, let's see, what day is it? November the 23rd, 2018, and it's been a little while since we've done a market update for the Waterdown area. Just a quick update there. We're sitting at about 70 houses for sale right now. We're selling about 4 or 5 homes a week on average. The days on market right now, it's been creeping up over the summer, so we're up to about 40-ish, 35 to 40 days on market on average. And we're going to dig into some deeper numbers here today to kind of show what's happened over the last 11 months, especially now that we're getting close to the end of the year. And we're going to compare some numbers to last year and kind of tell the story of where things stand as far as the real estate market is concerned. So what I've done is I have gone back month by month from this year and compared it to last year and created the spreadsheet. So I'll show you exactly what the numbers and the story that we're being told here is all about, because I find this to be quite interesting. It really does tell quite the story. So if you look at, this is 2017 down below here. This is what happened last year with the real estate market. And what I did was I looked at all of Hamilton and all of Halton. So we had a really big population of numbers to look at. And I think that that's important to understand, because this is condos, townhouses, apartment style condos, all the way up to detached homes, multi-million-dollar homes. There were no filters set. It's basically everything that's sold in all of Halton, which is Oakville, and it's Burlington, and then all of Hamilton, which encompasses Waterdown, Flamborough, Hamilton, Ancaster, Stoney Creek, like all of those areas all encompassed. So because we have a big population size, we've got some really good consistency in the numbers. So if you take a look here, 2017, this is when we had that wild roller coaster of a ride with the real estate market, and we saw prices very quickly from January to February jump from like 630 to 650 to 675 or 695 down to 675. So April 2017, this is when there was the announcement made by the government that said they were going to levy a 15% foreign buyer tax on any money coming in from outside of the country. Any foreign buyers that were buying real estate inside Ontario, that they were going to have to pay a tax, 15% tax. There were also some rule changes as far as the lending was concerned at that time as well. So we had a couple of things hit. Basically, April the 24th, I believe, was the date. It was the end of April. And we pretty much threw a cold bucket of water on the market. And you can see here a couple of months later where the prices on average dropped from like the mid to high 7s to the mid 6s in a 2-month period. Basically things went backwards almost 100 grand. And the number of sales too. So we went from almost 2,000 sales per month to like 1,200 a month. And normally we have a bit of a slowdown in the summer anyways, but to see the numbers cut almost in half is pretty extreme. The other thing that tells the tale is 13 days on market is ridiculous. And if anybody was buying a house in that time frame, you know what it felt like when it was like, oh my God, a house got listed for sale today. We got to go see it right now. Because houses were selling pretty much that quick. And very quickly, once we got into the summer, you can see here the average days on market got up into the 30s. So it's very interesting. What I also find very interesting here is at the end of the year, when you compare this number here, this minus 1.99, that is the average price from December going all the way back to January. So at the end of the year, the average price kind of settled out, and we basically ended pretty much where we started at the beginning of the year. So now when we take a look at the numbers from last year and compare them to this year, we see some similarities and also some changes too. So we started out the year at about 630,000 for the average price. Days on market was definitely a lot higher than what we were used to, and the number of sales was down a little bit on average. And when you actually compare month over month, there's only, let's see here, we've got 2 months 3 months that are close or maybe a little bit above the sales that we saw last year compared to this year through the summer, but the beginning part of the year was a lot slower. So when you look at that craziness that happened last year, right, 2,100 sales in March, that compared to 1,280 sales of this year in March, that's a significant difference. It's almost half. And to me, that shows the pressure and the demand. That crazy market that we had last year was just like wildfire. And a lot of it had to do with just that particular moment in time where we had so many buyers coming in and spending money buying houses inside Canada. So now we have a very different market. To me, this is a more stabilized, more normalized. This is more in line with what we see traditionally every single year. So if we look at where we started this year at 630,000 on average for the area, and now this month of November, and even if we go back to October, we're in the higher sixes, which shows about a 6% gain from the beginning of the year to now, which in a normalized real estate market, we see an average increase from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, somewhere between 4 and 5%. So again, it's going to be a more normalized market over the period of the year. Something else to pay a little bit of attention to is the number of sales. Last year was 17,358 for the entire year. Right now we're sitting at 13,170. I don't think we're going to sell 4,000 or 5,000 houses over the next 6 weeks to round out the year. In fact, I think we're probably going to see around 500 or 600 sales happen in the next 6 weeks. So this number is going to be down pretty significantly from last year, and a large part of that is due to this range, that first 3 or 4 months of last year where things were just crazy out of control. So when we look at it in a graph and we overlay the two, there's some trends that are pretty typical. So when you look at the average price throughout the year, what we see here, the blue line is 2018, and that represents to me a fairly normal market where the prices start off maybe a little bit low. They creep up a little bit fairly quickly into the spring market, which is, the weather's starting to change and we start seeing a lot of people putting their homes on the market, trying to take advantage of that nice weather and the typical spring bubble that we have with the market. And then they kind of taper off a little bit towards the end of the year. So what you'll see here, I find very interesting, even in this year, the highest average sale price that we had this year was in May. And June's a very close second, and then it kind of tapers off a little bit throughout the rest of the year. So what I tell people is if you're looking to sell your home and get the most amount of money possible because you're moving out of the country, you're moving out of the area, you're going to sell in the Hamilton area and you're moving down to Niagara, you want to get the best sale price possible for your home. Listing your home for sale early in the year, like March, April, is going to give you the best opportunity to get the biggest return on your investment when you sell your home. Historically speaking, and I've done this, I've gone back to 2000 and I've looked at these numbers, it's pretty consistent over the last 20 years that the highest average sale price in a calendar year happens in May, June, which means the houses are actually selling in like March, April and have a 30 to 60 day close. So again, if we look at the averages, the best time of year, like back last year, it would have been great to have bought a house in December 2016 or 2017, because that was the lowest average price over all of 2017 was to buy a house in December, or actually even buy it in like October, November and have it close in December. So looking at these, again, if you're a new home buyer and you don't have something to sell and you would like to take advantage of the best opportune time to buy a home and get the best average price, buying a home at the end of the year can be a really great strategy. And we're seeing that now. Like even now in December, November and December, we're seeing some pretty good opportunities out there. We've got a good amount of inventory, not a lot of competition with the buyers. So, the buyers are able to go in there and buy houses at, 96, 97% of asking price and negotiate some pretty good terms as well. So this little graph here I'm going to end up with is the year-over-year change by month, and this just goes to illustrate exactly how crazy that spring market was last year. So when we had this time frame back in like February, March, and April, where the prices jumped from like 630 average to 750 and 790, that was completely unrealistic and unsustainable. It's just a weird anomaly that happened in the market. So when you compare that time frame, that, you know, February, March, and April of last year to this year, what you see is a very big difference. So I'm really sorry if you bought a house in March or April of last year and you now have to sell a year later, because this is going to hurt. Quite honestly, because you're not going to be able to sell your house for what you paid for it in most cases. There's always outliers. On average, though, if you compare the average price of April this year to April of last year, 16.4% difference. That's a big difference. So that's why we see this dip below the zero line pretty much for the first half of this year compared to the sales of last year. And then things actually kind of picked up a little bit on average, and because the market normalized at the end of last year and the prices came back down to where, in my opinion, they should have been, we do see a little bit of year-over-year improvement. So for November, you're actually at 2.75% over what was last year. So yeah, very interesting story when you look at the last 2 years of the real estate market in this specific area. I like the way things are heading personally. You know, we're seeing houses, you know, they're on market for around 30 to 40 days. You know, if we look at the last, or this month currently, we're about 38 days on market. To me, that's normal. That's a balanced market. That means, you know, you can, as a buyer, go out, go shopping for homes. You can go look at 4 or 5 homes, choose the one that's best suited to you, negotiate good terms and conditions, do your home inspections. And for sellers, you know, you have a pretty good expectation of what your house is going to sell for. You also, I think, understand that you're going to put your home on the market, and it's probably going to be on the market for a month or two before you get an offer that you can negotiate with. So it's a lot more predictable this year than it has been, which in my opinion is a good thing. It makes it a little bit easier to plan your move. So that's your numbers for all of the Hamilton and Burlington area over the last 2 years. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how December rounds out the year, but given the course that we're on, I think it's going to be pretty easy to understand. I'm going to flip over to something really quick before we sign off here, and I'm going to show you what we use as realtors to search the MLS, and it's very different than what the public MLS has. So when I do my search, and this is exactly what I did to come up with those numbers, is I looked at everything in the region of Halton and Hamilton that was for sale. And as an example, this is what sold in the month of November, 717 sales. And when I click on the results, it gives me everything about that. The MLS, the price, all the information about who the listing agent was, selling agent, number of beds, baths, square foot, all that stuff. And when I check on all those 270 homes, I can actually look at the stats. And this is incredibly powerful information to help you with your move, right? We get what's the minimum, maximum, average, right? This is where the average selling price is coming from. This is where the average days on market is coming from, and tells you what the actual list to sell price ratios are. So if you're looking for this kind of information, I'm giving everything because this is going to apply to a bigger area, all of Hamilton, all of Halton. But if you're looking for this kind of information, and really when you really want to get down to specific numbers, you need to look at your particular neighborhood. You know, West Waterdown, East Waterdown. If you're in Burlington, you want to be in a certain pocket, say like the Orchard or Millcroft or those kinds of things. We can pull that information for you and show you down to like what's happening on your street, what's happening in your school district. So we can pull all that information for you. Just give us a call. Let us know what it is that you need to know about your neighborhood, and how it relates to your house, what's going on in your particular micro market. We'll get that information for you. So thanks for tuning in today. I wanted to expand upon our normal quick little, this is what's going on in Waterdown, and give you a little bit of a, behind the curtain scenes to see what the Wizards are doing back here, to get you the information that you would like to see. If there's any specific information that you would like to see in upcoming episodes, by all means, give us a call, let us know, send me a message, and we'll make sure that we get the information that you need to make a great real estate decision. Have yourself a fantastic day, and we'll see you next week.